You're listening to the Astromommy Weekly Horoscope, a forecast that hopes to shine a light in the dark, helping us all see where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. Whether you're a first-time listener or a long-time subscriber, thanks for being here. I truly appreciate you being in the Astromommy community. I hope you enjoy this week's horoscope and card reading. Without further ado, here is the weekly horoscope. Happy Thanksgiving, happy Sagittarius season, and happy Mars opposite the full moon square Saturn. Holy Mother of Creation, comedy is our only hope. Weekly forecast for Tuesday, November 21st through Monday, November 27th, 2023. Good evening, friends. How was your Mars Cazimi weekend? Well, I have to admit, I thought mine would feel different. I was prepared to feel more drive, energy, and focus. But what I felt was like a bad case of ADD. Instead of focusing on writing all weekend, which was my brilliant plan, I somehow, got sucked into watching makeup and hair tutorials on YouTube. And then like clockwork on Saturday, when the moon in Aquarius made her square to Jupiter in Taurus, I couldn't help myself and started browsing the online aisles, so to speak, for Christmas presents. I was good and didn't buy anything yet, but oh man, it was hard to not just spend all my money on presents. That would have been a very textbook manifestation of Moon Square Jupiter, so I am glad I had some restraint. I started off Sunday with good intentions. I was going to write all day, but alas, other things happened, and then I needed to eat, get something for a child, eat some more, take a break from procrastinating. Make some tea, but I did do something on Sunday that I didn't do on Saturday, and that was getting myself dressed to makeup and shoes. I did get dressed on Saturday, but forgot makeup or shoes. No one saw me. On Sunday, I did have a nice talk with my sister, Moon Trine Venus, and then a heated, frustrating one with my mother, Moon Square Uranus. Sorry, Mom. And now I am sitting, typing, and going on and on. What the heck is going on? Holding chin in the thinking position. Oh, I know what this ADD is symbolized by in the heavens right now. Mercury in Sagittarius. Thank you, Mercury in Sagittarius. Colorful and elaborate stories and the mind wandering on an adventure here and on an adventure there. Mercury is said to be in his detriment in Sagittarius, and it simply means that it is a time when it may be harder to focus on the details, your to-do list, or dare I say it, the point. Don't get me wrong, I love Mercury in Sagittarius, but mostly because of the humor. I have a good friend who has Mercury in Sag, and she is a giggler. Everything is funny, and she herself is loads of fun. Well, Mercury in Sagittarius may be a bit frustrating if you are trying to get something done, like, let's say, writing a weekly horoscope, but it is brilliant and dependable for a good and hearty laugh. And let me tell you, we are all going to need to keep our spirits up this week with lots and lots of humor. So dust off that old joke book you have lying around and cue up your favorite online comedy specials. This is the only way I see us making it through the week to come. One very fun thing that is happening this week is the moon's conjunction with Jupiter, which will be exact on Saturday, November 25th. But you can actually see the space between the moon and Jupiter reduce if you watch her rise each evening shortly after sunset with Jupiter following her. As we get nearer to Saturday, the moon and Jupiter will get closer and closer to rising together in the eastern sky at sunset, and they will do so on Friday night. They will perfect their conjunction early on Saturday morning at 4:42 a.m. Eastern Time. Before we get into it, there is a sale this week only, November 20th through the 27th, 2023, in the family Etsy shop Metaphysical Flamingo, in celebration of my birthday on the 26th. Mugs, water bottles, patches, stickers, and all jewelry, including the sterling silver zodiac pendants handmade by my father, astrologer Dennis McNeil, are all on sale, 25% off. Please check them out for your holiday shopping. All items are either handmade or they were hand-designed by either me or someone in the family. You can read about us on the About page of the shop. Thank you so much for your patronage. Oh, and also, in order to receive anything before Christmas, the order by date is December 9th, 2023. Here are a few pictures of our best sellers. Okay, let's get into the astrology. All times are in Eastern Time unless mentioned otherwise. This week, we have several events happening that are going to change the landscape a bit. The Sun is ingressing into Sagittarius on November 22nd, 2023, and then the Sun will square Saturn on the 23rd. Mars will ingress into Sagittarius on the 24th and subsequently square Saturn on the 25th. So we have the two celestial bodies that deal with our ambitions, drives, and identities, moving into a new sign and hitting Saturn in hard aspect. Plus, the full moon is brewing and will be occurring on Monday the 27th at 4:16 a.m. This full moon looks intense and challenging. As a side note, the full moon just happens to be during my solar return, so yippee! My entire next year will have this intense and challenging energy going on. I will share a little bit more about that when we go over Sunday and Monday's horoscopes. Before we go over each day, as always, let's talk about the moon this week. The moon starts the week out in the adaptable, compassionate, and psychic sign of Pisces and moves into the courageous, willful, and self-focused sign of Aries on Wednesday. Then she will ingress into the pleasurable, solid, and stable sign of Taurus on Friday and stay there until Sunday, when she will move into the curious, witty, and mischievous sign of Gemini, which is where she will be for the full moon next Monday. So let's look at this by mode and element. The work week is mutable water, cardinal fire, and fixed earth, emotional, active, and a bit unyielding. This weekend is dominated by fixed earth, pleasure, stability, and security, but changes on Sunday night into mutable air, social, interactive, and mental energy. Now we'll go over each day of the week and touch on the most important transits for that day, and then we'll do a 3-card tarot spread for the week. Tuesday, November 21st, 2023. The moon. On Tuesday, your feelings may still be raw, as the moon in Pisces conjoined Saturn yesterday, which is usually a reality check moment where we experience feelings of melancholy, depression, isolation, and loneliness. The moon in Pisces is emotionally turbulent, intuitive, psychic, and a dreamer who loves to try to meld and become one with experience itself. Thankfully, there are a couple of positive aspects going on today that may soften our hearts a bit. Joke books out, people. The transits. The bookends for Tuesday are 2 sextiles. The first is the moon sextile Jupiter in Taurus retrograde, and the last is a sextile between the moon and Uranus in Taurus retrograde. So I think that Tuesday is a day that has the possibility to be positive and abundant, but how it does that may surprise us. The 2 most notable transits for Tuesday are the moon in Pisces forming a square to Mercury in Sagittarius at 3:15 p.m. and Mars in Scorpio forming a sextile to Pluto in Capricorn at 9:17 p.m. The moon and Mercury in a square can mean arguments, trouble with travel and transportation, miscommunications, and or putting our feet in our mouths. People may talk out of turn, wanting to tell their elaborate stories when it is not their time to be on stage and say their lines. We could also feel irritable and easily annoyed. Mars and Pluto in a sextile may be more positive in that we have the inner drive and desire to get to the bottom of things today and do our best to clear out the dead stuff. It's an opportunity to rake up all the dying leaves in your yard, empty your trash, or cut away that which is no longer useful. This could be internally as well, and we may have the juice to do some emotional clearing today. On another note, this combination could describe a sexual or sensual experience that is meaningful, soothing, or pleasant with a lot of intensity. Wednesday, November 22nd, 2023. The moon. Today is a transition day because the moon moves out of the emotional, compassionate, and non-discriminatory sign of Pisces and ingresses into the pioneering, me-first, impulsive sign of Aries at 12:19 p.m. The moon in Aries is more aggressive, action-oriented, confident, and a trailblazer who loves to be the leader of the pack, metaphorically slashing through the brush with their machete, literally creating the trail for everyone behind them to follow. This sign has no fear and even fewer regrets. Whereas the Pisces moon energy is a much softer, more receptive energy, like a hippie stoned at a party. It's all about the love, man. Or like the incredible imagination of a poet or an artist. It's adaptable, surreal, and loves to escape into what feels good, our dreams, our hearts, and our souls. The transits. The Pisces moon will conjoin Neptune at 3:45 a.m., which could bring vivid dreams, creative imagination, beautiful musical experiences, or a heightened sense of intuition. At 9:02 a.m., Sagittarius season begins with the sun's ingress into the sign of the Archer. Happy birthday, Sagittarius! It's my birthday coming up too. Did I mention it is on the 26th? The sun in Sagittarius is hopeful and optimistic, shoots for the stars, and loves adventure. There's a desire to travel physically or in the mind with Sagittarius, and people could decide to go on trips or begin an educational or spiritual journey during this time. The house ruled by Sagittarius in your natal chart gets highlighted now, and those house topics may come to the fore. Astrologer Christopher Renstrom says, quote, "Some people follow their passions, others follow their heart. You, Sagittarius, answer to a higher authority, your life purpose," unquote. We may all feel this calling during Sagittarius season toward our higher purpose to find the, quote, burning bush out there somewhere with a divine message meant for us, unquote. Sagittarius is also the last sign in the season of fall, and the last fire sign before we start over again in spring with Aries. This is a big responsibility to carry the torch of fire, which is the element of inspiration, creativity, and hope. Sagittarius gives us faith and optimism that the light will return. Sagittarius carries the spark, the ember of hope, and lights the way through the dark winter, ferrying us all to the shores of spring without losing our faith. Sagittarius is a double-bodied sign, or in modern astrology, a mutable sign, and this means that it has a dual nature to it. On the one hand, Sagittarius is hopeful, optimistic, and enthusiastic, but on the other hand, it can also be hedonistic, rebellious, and nihilistic. The symbol for Sagittarius is the centaur, which my teacher, Adam Ellenbass, described in one of his classes as, quote, a rowdy, unruly, wild bunch of a-holes, but on the other hand, they symbolize medicine, wisdom, righteousness, and astronomy, unquote. After the Sun makes his ingress into Sagittarius, he will immediately be in a partile square to Saturn, which is a really heavy transit. I'm going to talk about it in more detail in the section for Thursday, but be aware that the archetypal combination of the Sun and Saturn in a hard square could manifest today. In the mid-morning between 10:30 and 11 a.m., the moon in Pisces forms a sextile to Pluto in Capricorn and a trine to Mars in Scorpio back-to-back. The moon and Pluto in a harmonious aspect symbolize that there may be a possibility for some emotional transformation or physical catharsis, but it's easy and it may even go unnoticed. Especially with the moon forming a trine to Mars right afterward, representing speed, flow, and a lack of obstacles, these two transits may feel like driving very fast on an open highway. Imagine there is not another car in sight and you can just fly. It feels almost effortless as you speed along. And then imagine you are driving along, the music is playing, and all is well, and because of this freedom, you have the space to think deeply about things. You may start to contemplate relationships you have or areas in your life where you feel vulnerable, wounded, or easily triggered, and this is symbolized by Venus in Libra, perfecting an opposition to Chiron and Aries retrograde, bringing up areas in our lives where we feel we are having to make compromises or sacrifices. The opposition between the two will bring the issue to a head, and a decision will have to be made. Once the moon makes her ingress into Aries in the afternoon, there could be a sense of urgency, action, and competition in the air, especially since immediately upon her ingress into Aries, the moon will form a trine to the Sun in Sagittarius, so there could be a sudden urge to do something or a brilliant million-dollar idea for your future that you really want to implement right now. The Aries moon is independent, driven, and direct, and knows what she wants, when she wants it, and how she wants to get it, and if things get in her way, tempers could flare. Late on Wednesday night, the moon in Aries forms a semi-square to Uranus in Taurus retrograde, throwing an unexpected wrench into our plans that sets you back and you have to wait. This could be aggravating, frustrating, and maddening for the Aries moon. Take it easy and go watch some comedy. Thursday, November 23rd, 2023. The moon. On Thursday, the moon will be in Aries all day, and her impatience may be through the roof as the moon in Aries is quick-tempered, impulsive, and willful. I wish I could say that there were a bunch of awesome easy transits because it's Thanksgiving today, but I can't. Seriously, the only harmonious transit is the moon in Aries trine Mercury in Sagittarius, so that means hot, righteous attitudes. The best way to use this energy is to direct it with laughing, joking, and humor. So figure out a safe word for Thursday and make it something ridiculous like pickle frog or wrinkle butt because it doesn't look easy. The transits. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is a very stressful astrological day. First, we have the Sun in Sagittarius perfecting a square to Saturn in Pisces. This alone makes for a hard day. Then the moon is making several stressed aspects, sesquiquadrates to both the Sun and Mars, and a semi-square to Saturn, plus an opposition to Venus. Ouch! The only harmonious aspect of the day, as I said before, is the moon in Aries forming a trine to Mercury in Sagittarius. Okay, so this means action, and a lot of it. Pressure to get things done, things not going according to plan, but trying to power through. Sounds like every other Thanksgiving, right? Resistance, struggle, disharmony, limitations, restrictions, and scarcity may all be felt. The moon trine Mercury means that we are maniacally laughing at the whole damn shitstorm. One Thanksgiving, I spilled the gravy all over the floor. And then, of course, we had to make more gravy, and all was well. But these transits are like spilling the gravy, burning the turkey, and accidentally dropping the salad. It's just all going to hell in a handbasket. And so you throw up your hands and you go out to eat Chinese food, giggling the whole meal like a crazy person because the day has just been so dang ridiculous. Or maybe you're like my family and dealing with stomach bugs and sore throats going through your household, so it's just turkey soup this time around. Whatever it is, it won't be normal. Brace yourself for a wacky Thanksgiving with a lot of mishaps and blunders. And let's not forget the grave seriousness of the Sun square Saturn, which is by far the strongest aspect of the whole day. The Sun square Saturn can be a really cold reality check where seriousness meets severity in the harsh light of a gas station bathroom. This is a crisis point between the mission and motivations of your life and the structures that crystallize your foundation. The pressure can be intense and cause cracks. Let me break it down. The sun is the giver of life, the noetic light, and the king of our solar system. He represents vitality, spirit, honor, the father in a day chart, and major illumination. The sun enlivens, shines a light on, and strengthens, but also may block out the light of other planets when they are too close to his mighty rays. The sun is hot, dry, and choleric, and we can both be warmed by his light and also dried out and exhausted by too much. The sun's energy is that of a leader with courage, self-esteem, and incredible influence, which is why it often signifies presidents, kings, and queens. When the sun is involved in a transit, we can expect situations involving people of high authority or prestige in our lives to be illuminated. Saturn is the planet that is associated with the Grim Reaper and Father Time. He brings restriction, limits, hardships, challenges, tests, and his function is to regulate, create structure, solidify, and harden things. He is a cold, dry planet, the furthest one we can see with our naked eye. He is melancholic and rules the humor of black bile, which is simply put the waste products of the body. He calcifies, crystallizes, and inhibits. When another planet makes contact with Saturn, it brings in harsh realities, limitations, and the feeling of being checked by an authority figure. Saturn can actually represent authority figures, fathers in a night chart, and or an older, serious, and more experienced person. So putting all these characteristics together in a square aspect adds the energy of Mars, of action. Sometimes anger, strife, and conflict can arise from a square, and other times initiative, leadership, and courage. This is like a big test about our purpose, mission, and reality. Physically, we could feel drained, depleted, or even feel an illness coming on, since the sun is our vitality and Saturn dries things out, dehydrating them and wicking away life. We could experience hardships, denials, sacrifices, and barriers, as well as one of the most textbook Sun square Saturn interpretations, the death of a solar figure. To have this transit fall on a national holiday kind of sucks and is a real downer, to be honest. One of the things that my family and I like to do on Thanksgiving is watch Friends reruns. I highly recommend something like that to take the edge off of whatever edge you are personally feeling with this transit. Hopefully, it will manifest as something outside of our personal lives, and although it may be shocking, it won't be a tower card moment for any of us on a personal level. Or better yet, let's hope it's just like a really funny I Love Lucy episode. You know, like the ones where Lucy ends up crying, but it's funny, you know, like the crying is like part of the show. Happy Thanksgiving! Big awkward smile. Friday, November 24th, 2023. The moon. On Friday, the moon will be in Aries until the late afternoon when she will leave the courageous, independent, and freedom-loving sign and ingress into Taurus, a sign known for its passion, sensuality, and stubbornness. The moon is exalted in Taurus, which is a lot like going on vacation and being treated like an esteemed guest, and we may all need a vacation if yesterday sucked, let's be honest. Some of the positive Taurian traits are diligence, patience, and following through on your commitments, and some of the less desirable ones are stubbornness, inflexibility, or slovenly behaviors. The transits. Friday is Quincunx Day. We start out with Mercury quincunx Uranus in Taurus retrograde, and then end the day with the moon in Taurus, making quincunxes to both Mars and the sun. So it could be a bit of an odd day where we are trying to wrap our minds around something unusual or shocking or just out of the ordinary. These transits could also symbolize scattered thoughts, energy, and direction, as well as gossip. At 6:14 a.m., Mars, the planet of war, ingresses into Sagittarius, the sign of righteousness, hope, and fighting for the truth. Mars in Sagittarius is like a knight in shining armor, a fierce warrior but bound by a code of ethics to behave a certain way, and because the sun is also here, this gives a major boost of confidence to those born during this time. Mars in Sagittarius is a zealot on a righteous mission, and it would be better to be on his side than against him. After Mars ingresses into Sagittarius, just like the sun, he will be in an immediate partile square to Saturn, which could create a lot of frustration. Since the aspect perfects on Saturday, I will go into this transit more deeply on that day, but do be aware that it could feel like someone or something is literally holding you back from doing what you want to do. It reminds me of that classic scene where two brothers are fighting, and one is older and much taller, and the other is younger and therefore a lot shorter, and the little one comes at the older one swinging his arms trying to fight him, but all the older brother has to do is put his hand on the younger boy's forehead, pushing him away from his body, so even though he's still swinging with all his might, he's only hitting air. Mars may come into Sagittarius swinging, ready for battle, but then Saturn is like, nope. In the afternoon, the moon in Aries perfects a square to Pluto in Capricorn, and this could symbolize a crisis moment that is highly stressful coming up, or physically taxing in some way. There could also be jealousy, abuse, or marital problems. The moon square Pluto can also indicate a health situation that may require something invasive like surgery. Most likely, it will be about deep feelings coming up to the surface that will need to be sorted out through some sort of emotional release and transformation. The moon ingresses into Taurus at 4:28 p.m., and once she is there, she will form a quincunx to Mars and then the Sun in Sagittarius throughout the evening. So once again, we are dealing with something odd and strange that doesn't quite fit into our circumstances perfectly. In between these two quincunxes, the moon does make a sextile to Saturn, so it's possible that an elderly person is able to lend a bit of wisdom about the situation that helps us integrate the new information into our lives. Tonight is the night when you can see the waxing gibbous moon next to Jupiter in the night sky right after sunset and throughout the night. Enjoy. The weekend, Saturday, November 25th, 2023, the moon. The moon will be in Taurus all day, and it won't be all that bad for the moon today, since the main thing she will be doing is meeting up with Jupiter, which will happen at 4:42 a.m. This is a nice harmonious transit that hopefully will permeate the whole day and bring feelings of abundance, gratitude, and hope, coupled with blessings and helpful, supportive experiences. Mercury enters his pre-retrograde shadow today once he hits 22 degrees Sagittarius at 4:30 a.m., right before the moon and Jupiter conjoin. Mercury will station retrograde on December 13th, 2023 at 8 degrees Capricorn 29 minutes, and then he will station direct 3 weeks later after New Year's on January 2nd, 2024. So we have a Mercury retrograde coming in the Capricorn and Sagittarius houses of our charts. Plus, this will not be easy for travelers since he will be retrograde during the major holiday travel rush. If you have holiday travel plans, make sure you have a plan B and C in place to deal with any delays and setbacks that will come up. Here's a handy graphic of the next Mercury retrograde. The transits. The biggest transit of Saturday is another hard transit, and that is Mars in Sagittarius, square Saturn in Pisces, which will perfect at 11:57 a.m. Mars is the planet of war, and it represents where we need to take action in our lives. Saturn is the planet of restriction, time, and limitations, and represents where we need to be more responsible and committed. The square is of the nature of Mars, and so it pushes, pulls, thrusts, and yanks us toward growth, development, and progress. We have to do something with this energy, or it will violently release itself and cause havoc, chaos, and turmoil. Mars and Saturn in this type of hard aspect can symbolize heated confrontations and feeling really frustrated. It can indicate something solid being destroyed, a structure being damaged, or a barrier being broken down. One of the most famous destructions, Mars, of a restrictive structure, Saturn, is the fall of the Berlin Wall, which actually came after a Sun-Mars conjunction, a cazimi, in Libra, that was also square Saturn in Capricorn back on September 29th, 1989. 10 days after this hard transit, 70,000 people began protesting, rallying for freedom. And then 1 month later, according to the article, Fall of Berlin Wall, How 1989 Reshaped the Modern World on BBC.com, quote, on November 9th, 1989, 5 days after 500,000 people gathered in East Berlin in a mass protest, the Berlin Wall dividing communist East Germany from West Germany crumbled, unquote. I think this is such an interesting phenomenon and very similar to the transit that we are having today. I wonder if we will see established structures that are meant to restrict, limit, and impede being demolished in the coming months. Sunday, November 26, 2023. My birthday! My birthday. It's my birthday. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sunday, November 26, 2023. My birthday. The moon. The moon on Sunday will be in the sensual, earthy, and practical sign of Taurus and make a lot of aspects to other planets before she ingresses into the witty, curious, and changeable sign of Gemini at 7:39 p.m. So we may feel the energy shift from the physical and passionate to the more mental and inquisitive. Gemini moon energy is very busy, doesn't sleep much, and likes to talk, teach, and explain things. With the full moon brewing, this energy can be really intense for those not used to the constant thoughts, chatter, and mental processes that go on during a moon in Gemini. One of the things that I have found so interesting in tracking the moon throughout the month and what happens in my own personal life is that I have more vivid dreams when the moon is in Gemini, with Aquarius and Pisces being the next most frequent moon signs. And I think this is because the moon in Gemini is so mentally stimulating, but also the moon activates my first house of self and forms a trine to my ninth house of dreams when she is in Gemini. I am curious, do you dream more when the moon is in Gemini too, or going through your first house? I would love to know. Please leave a comment. The transits. So Sunday is my birthday, and it also happens to be my solar return, the day in which the sun returns to the same degree and minute as it was when I was born. The solar return gives us insight into the goings-on for the native in the year ahead. Whatever aspects will perfect within the first 24 hours of the solar return are of special importance. Enough about me, though. Let's get into it. On Sunday, we have a mixed bag of transits. There are several quincunxes, and we start the day with one, the moon in Taurus, quincunx Venus in Libra. And then there are a few harmonious, soft aspects. For example, the moon makes a trine to Pluto in the late afternoon. There is one hard aspect, though. That's sure to be exciting, and I say that with a lot of sarcasm. The moon in Gemini forming a square to Saturn in Pisces in the evening. This week has been full of squares to Saturn, and they aren't easy transits. They represent harsh realities, struggle, strife, conflict, and feeling limited, restricted, and blocked. So far, we've had the Sun square Saturn, then we had Mars square Saturn, and now we are having the Moon square Saturn, right before she is full tomorrow. The full moon represents a peak and culmination, as well as an ending to something in our lives, so this could be a challenge. Then there are two hidden aspects that perfect on Sunday as well. Mars will make an antisha to Pluto at 10:35 a.m., and the moon will perfect a contra antisha to Pluto at 10:27 p.m. This is very interesting. So the energy today is intense, building and charged, and also strange, wacky, unbelievable, and a bit like the Twilight Zone, with some underlying deeply hidden motivations and emotional conflicts. The moon will conjoin Uranus in Taurus retrograde at 3:02 a.m., while she is in the quincunx to Venus in Libra and also to Mercury in Sagittarius. Venus and Mercury are still within 3 degrees of engagement to each other in a harmonious sextile, which we saw perfect last Wednesday, November 15th. So this double quincunx from the moon and Uranus to Venus and Mercury reactivates their sextile energy and also loosely forms a yod, a finger of fate. The moon is also about to make a sextile to Neptune shortly after her conjunction to Uranus, and Venus is building up to forming a quincunx to Neptune in the coming days. So the moon is activating another loose yod formation. What this means is that we want harmony in our relationships, and we want what we value and love to be peacefully balanced within our lives and make sense. But there are odd, strange components that are throwing us curveballs. We are struggling with either people or circumstances that don't quite fit into the plan, but we have to come up with a solution anyway, or we are struggling with something in our hearts and minds that doesn't seem to make sense with our environments or lifestyles, and we are trying to figure it all out. How does it all fit together? Why have we been given these pieces to the puzzle of our lives that don't seem to fit? But we have to figure out how to make them cooperate with each other. It can feel very confusing, disorienting, and stressful. The quincunx is an odd 150-degree angle that indicates two planets that have very different values and missions, but who are forced to interact with each other and try to find common ground. It usually results in a change or separation from one way of thinking about something or doing something to a totally new and unusual way of thinking about or doing something. And for a moment, it feels like the Twilight Zone, where it is just a bit unbelievable what you are having to integrate. So there's all that at work today. And then, in the afternoon, the moon in Taurus makes a trine to Pluto in Capricorn, and this is symbolic of all the barriers, blocks, and detours suddenly being removed, and the emotions are allowed to just flow out. It's like as if we were tapping for a spring in the forest, and then suddenly the earth gives way, and rising from the depths is a beautiful gush of continuous water. This could be symbolic of having a very deep, thoughtful, and revealing experience with someone, or this could indicate a very cathartic moment that provides a lot of release and healing. Either way, inner feelings are coming out without barriers. By Sunday evening, the moon ingresses into Gemini at 7:39 p.m., where she has no essential dignity and is peregrine. This means that she has left her fertile vacation home of Taurus, where she is exalted, and entered the barren desert on her way to Cancer, where she is at home. The moon in Gemini is very resourceful, though, because she is quick, cunning, and very intelligent. She can work out a problem in her head at extreme speed. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, who is called the master of arguments. Mercury is the quick, winged messenger of the gods. He brings rational thoughts, information, and news. He rules over words, news, communication, and language. He also governs short distance travel, since he is able to go from our world to the underworld and back with ease. He is a magician in the sense that he has both the qualities of being wet and slippery, as well as dry. These traits contribute to his cleverness, wit, and curiosity. As soon as the moon moves into Gemini, she is immediately in a square to Saturn, which perfects at 9:22 p.m. Serious feelings may come up, and we could feel as if we are being blocked emotionally. Saturn places a heavy hand on the moon with the square, and since he is in the superior position, this could bring up dark feelings of depression, loneliness, and isolation. Fear is a trademark of Saturn, and so what we fear may come into our minds, take a seat, and want to chat. This may be really hard and suck a lot. We could feel emotionally raw. We may be in a state of worry or anxiousness. As with any hard aspect between the moon and Saturn, it is important to feel the feelings, acknowledge them, and be patient with yourself as you process whatever you are being confronted with today. The moon is in Gemini, so writing, speaking, singing, and telling your story may be the best way to work through the very challenging tests that Saturn may bring. Also, going for a short journey, either by foot, bike, or car, may be helpful to change the scenery a bit, but do follow the rules of the road, since Saturn can represent authority figures like the local police. This is not a time to be sneaky and try to get away with anything. This brings me to the Antisha and Contra Antisha that will perfect on Sunday. First, Mars in Sagittarius forms an Antisha to Pluto in Capricorn at 10:35 a.m., which symbolizes a hidden conjunction between Mars and Pluto. Mars and Pluto coming together can represent extremely passionate, sexual, deep, transformative energy, motivations, and drives. So it's almost like underneath all the other stuff that is happening today, there is a deeply passionate motivator at work. Then the moon in Gemini will form a contra Antisha, which acts like a hidden opposition to Pluto and Capricorn, meaning that our emotions, environments, and circumstances are at odds with this deep transformative energy. So underneath, we may be at war with ourselves in terms of what we desire and are moved by, and what our life will actually accept. It's a very interesting dynamic that is not on the surface. The moon is almost 100% full and will look very full tonight. Enjoy the sight if you can. Next week, Monday, November 27th, 2023, the moon. The moon is full today in Gemini at 4:16 a.m. The transits. The full moon phase is when the intentions of the new moon have culminated and come to a peak. It is akin to the time in the life cycle of a plant when the plant bears its fruit. This is a very potent and powerful time, and the energy surrounding a full moon can be very intense and exalted. You can experience joyful celebrations as well as endings during a full moon, since after the peak point, the moon begins to wane. Similarly, after the plant bears all of its fruit, it begins the process of going to seed and breaking down to either die or go dormant. Let's take a look at the full moon chart and discuss the energy at work today. You can see the Sun and Mars together in Sagittarius in the bottom left of the chart, and directly opposite them is the full moon in Gemini in the upper right. So Mars is still very closely involved with this full moon, just as he was with the new moon 2 weeks ago. This means that the seeds of intention for this lunar cycle, which was a new moon in Scorpio, of which Mars is the traditional ruler, are very much Mars in character: passionate, driven, focused, obsessed, and action-oriented. Now Mars came into Sagittarius just a few days ago, fully charged up and ready to go, loaded with confidence by being in his own domicile, and as soon as he ingressed into Sagittarius, he was hit with a ray from Saturn in the square, which caused major frustration. Now he is in an opposition to the moon during this full moon, and so there will either be a super hyped up righteous display of bravado from Mars, or there will be a dramatic rebellious ending to something. So there is definitely this aggressive, virtuous energy that will fight for what it feels is just and true. Mercury is also in a square to Neptune on this day, which will perfect at 8:27 a.m., just hours after the full moon. This is interesting because Mercury is in harmonious aspects to the nodes right now, which means that Mercury feels pretty good and in alignment with things, but the square to Neptune can bring up wishful thinking, being easily triggered or overstimulated mentally, being unable to focus on things because mentally you are in a fog, a dreamy state, or just confused. It represents clouded judgment, foggy thinking, and not being able to see things clearly. It can also indicate deception, gullibility, and lies. So this is not an easy transit to have at the same time as the full moon, especially since Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, the sign the moon is in, and Mercury is in his detriment in Sagittarius. So he is not able to give the moon the support that she may need right now to deal with the bright and fiery light upon her from the Sun and Mars. So this full moon does not look easy. It looks heated, charged, confusing, and just problematic in general. Take care of yourselves and practice patience, kindness, and flexibility. Maybe some goat yoga would help. The tarot spread. Let's move on to a 3-card spread for the week representing the subconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious. Hopefully this spread will help us out this week. The first card representing the subconscious is Page of Wands. On this card, we see a page carrying a sprouted wand. Greenery grows beneath his feet. The Page of Wands represents the element of fire, which gives us courage, inspiration, and a desire for freedom. We want to move in new directions without fear, obstacles, or internal blocks. This picture is of a young man embarking on a journey. His youthful, spontaneous, and pioneering energy gives him the courage to move forward, and by doing so, he inspires others. As the energy of the subconscious, I feel this card is telling us that we are drawing upon our pioneering and adventurous spirits, so we can move ahead without being scared. Intuitively, we know that we have all the information we need to take action and move forward in life. The second card, representing the conscious, is 17, the star, reversed. On this card, we see a woman, half naked, kneeling on the grass beside a stream. She is holding a water jug in each hand and is simultaneously pouring water on the earth and into the stream. The Rolla Nordic instruction book describes the stars in the sky on this card as, quote, the 7 stars, 7 principles, 7 laws, and the 7 stars of the Pleiades joined together to make one whole. The star in the east seen by the Magi was the 8th star. They followed it. It was the combined love and protection from the planets which hovered with love and compassion over the master, unquote. 17, the star card, represents having hope, faith, and a spiritual sense of purpose. The star card follows the tower card in the tarot, which has to do with the structure in your life being struck down by lightning. The star then represents someone who is renewing their life after a major upheaval. In the reverse position, 17, the star, can symbolize questioning your faith in the mysteries of the universe. It can represent a lack of or a test of faith in the universe and in yourself. It's a reminder to look around you with an open mind and heart and acknowledge the blessings in your life. Each challenge is a lesson we can learn and grow from, not a punishment. So believe in yourself and trust the process. The star reverse could also represent feeling uninspired and trapped in the day-to-day grind of life. So the message here is to reconnect with your purpose and align your life accordingly. You may be running on fumes and feel very depleted, so take some time to do some rejuvenating self-care rituals that fill up your energy reserves. As the card represents what we are conscious of, I would say we are aware that we are struggling to see the beauty and the gift in whatever we are going through. Sometimes when life sucks and it is hard, it's a struggle to understand why things are happening the way they are. But we don't always have to understand it. Sometimes being in a state of confusion is part of the process, just as when we feel clarity. This seems to tie in very nicely with Mercury making his square to Neptune this Monday. The fog will lift soon, just be patient. And the third card representing the superconscious is Page of Pentacles reversed. On this card, a young page offering loyal support in matters of work, career, health, home, and material things in general, as shown by the pentacle in his hand. The Page of Pentacles represents taking on new responsibilities in your life in matters like money, home, and anything that is tangible. He is trustworthy, responsible, and offers his assistance. In the reverse position, the Page of Pentacles can mean that we are not experiencing any progress in some area of our lives, or we are procrastinating taking those first steps. We could also be afraid of failing if we do so. Cards in the reverse position can also mean we need to look inward for the source of the procrastination or lack of progress, or it could also mean we are doing something in private, and in this case, it is about an enterprising idea or job-related endeavor that we are not yet ready to go public with. As for the card in the superconscious position, I feel this means that we may be feeling some resistance towards starting this new initiative, and maybe it comes from the lack of faith we are consciously feeling. So to recap, subconsciously we have ideas, inspirations, and desires that just need the right soil to be planted in order to grow. Consciously, we are feeling a bit overwhelmed by life, drained of inspiration, and lacking faith that all will work out. Superconsciously, we are resistant to doing the work needed to bring our ideas out into the open for fear of failure or prematurity. The opportunity I see with this reading is to reconnect with your purpose, refill your energy reserves if you are feeling depleted, and focus your energies on things that make sense and feel in alignment. What do you see? In conclusion, for the weekly forecast, I want to share a clip from one of my favorite Friends episodes, episode 8 of season 5, the one with all the Thanksgivings. Enjoy. We actually found a Turkey Friends hat that I couldn't help myself and had to buy for this Thanksgiving. Please let me know what you think about the weekly horoscope and tarot reading in the comments. I truly appreciate your feedback. I hope this is helpful. Have a wonderful holiday if you celebrate, and check out our sales in the family Etsy shop. Until next Tuesday, Astro Mommy. Thank you for reading or listening to the weekly horoscope. Quick links and resources can be found at the bottom of the newsletter. Today's cards were pulled from the Roller Nordic Tarot deck, which is currently out of print. If you seek knowledge and enlightenment, the Astronomy newsletter may be right for you. Side effects of reading or listening to the Astronomy newsletter are common and include joy, jubilation, delight, happiness, gratitude, love, triumph, feeling in tune with the universe, experiencing deep insights, reflections, and contemplations, a lightened soul, a lighter step, feeling awake when others are asleep, illuminated, enlightened, having spiritual experiences, noticing repeating numbers, animals in nature, or songs on the radio that speak to you, getting vibes, clairvoyance, clairaudience, and clairsmelliance, feeling like you know secret language, biophilia, crying tears of joy, emotional literacy, feeling lively, stable, exalted, having an auric glow, or feeling like you woke up on the right side of the bed have all been reported. If you purchase anything through the affiliate links that I provide in the newsletters, I will make a very small commission. Thanks for listening.